What's going on, YouTube? We are here for video number 2. Some people suggested we start off light our first few videos, but the president is reported to have said some things that made that untenable. So next week we got some lighter stuff, but stick around. This is going to get interesting. On September 3rd, 2020, the news publication The Atlantic broke a story that, among other things, Trump called military service members who died losers and suckers and requested wounded veterans be kept out of military parades. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into this report and discuss a few things. What are the actual claims in the Atlantic report? Is the reporting credible? What is the significance of unnamed sources? If the sources exist, why do they not come forward publicly? If the report is credible, is it even important? So, what are the claims and accusations made in the Atlantic report? Calling veterans suckers. There are non-mutually exclusive quotes for whom is identified as a sucker by Trump, but they both include veterans. The Atlantic reported that Trump referred to more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Bellawood as suckers for getting killed. Bellawood is venerated by the Marine Corps and was significant in that it stopped the German advance towards Paris in World War I. But regarding the use of suckers, Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin was able to confirm from a former Trump administration official that when Trump spoke about the Vietnam War, he said it was a stupid war and anyone who went was a sucker. And while we're on the topic, in regards to the Vietnam War, the New York Times journalists Baker and Haberman did not confirm the use of the word suckers, but had people familiar with Mr. Trump's private conversations say he was long scorned those who served in the Vietnam War as being too dumb to have gotten out of it. Keeping wounded veterans out of a planned military parade. The Atlantic reported that during a White House planning meeting for a military parade, Trump asked his staff not to include wounded veterans, on the grounds that spectators would feel uncomfortable in the presence of amputees. He is quoted to have said, "Nobody wants to see that." Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin was able to confirm through her source the president said regarding the inclusion of what he called wounded guys, "That is not a good look. Americans don't like that." Calling President George H.W. Bush a loser. The Atlantic reported that Trump referred to former President H.W. Bush as a loser for being shot down by Japanese as a Navy pilot in World War II. This is the most tenuous of the accusations because I've not been able to find any corroboration of these claims through other news outlets. Contempt for Senator John McCain. It is on public record that while campaigning in 2015, Trump said of John McCain, "He is not a war hero." And he continued, "I like people who weren't captured."
I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Do you agree with that?
He's a war hero because he was captured, okay? You can have, and I believe perhaps he's a war hero, but right now.
Reporting from The Atlantic stated that Trump said regarding McCain's passing, "We're not going to support that loser's funeral." Trump, in a series of tweets, also stated, "I never called John a loser." While not confirmed in this particular instance, Trump called John McCain a loser in 2015 at the Family Leadership Summit. Though the times may not match up, Trump's claim of never calling McCain a loser is an outright lie. Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin identified Trump asking about John McCain, "Why do you see him as a hero?" Griffin confirmed through two sources that Trump did not want the flags lowered, but others at the White House ordered them at half-mast after McCain's passing. New York Times journalists Baker and Haberman had sources confirm Trump resisted supporting an official funeral and lowering flags after the death of Senator John McCain. They cited Miles Taylor, who who was chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security at the time, said that he got calls from the White House unhappy that the department had ordered the flags lowered. The president is upset. This has gone out too soon, and he doesn't want it to happen, he quoted a White House aide telling him. Canceling the Ain Marne cemetery visit in 2018. The most contentious accusation is the cancellation of the visit to the Ain Marne cemetery in 2018. The Atlantic reported that Trump said, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." Cancellation of the Ain Marne American Cemetery visit near Paris in 2018 was attributed to fear his hair would become disheveled in the rain because he did not believe it was important to honor American war dead. They cited 4 unnamed sources with first-hand knowledge. Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin confirmed from her source he just didn't want to go. And he asked, "Why do I have to go to 2?" referring to 2 cemeteries. New York Times reporters Baker and Haberman cited several White House officials at the time, said the decision not to take Marine One at the Bellawood Cemetery was made by Zachary Fuentes, a close aide to Mr. Kelly, without consulting the president's military aide. Others argued that a trip by road would have taken too long, at roughly 2 hours. John Bolton, who has lost favor with Trump and was removed from the White House, said it was a straight weather call, as the 2-hour drive would have put Trump too far away from Air Force One and the communications array necessary in case of an emergency. Mr. Bolton said he did not hear Trump disparage troops, but Trump did not protest the decision either, as Trump has recently claimed. This was regarding a single conversation after Trump was informed of not being able to go to the memorial, but not including a possibly earlier conversation of not wanting to go to this more than one cemetery during the trip. Trump on not understanding military service. The Atlantic stated that Trump finds the notion of service difficult to understand, and the idea of volunteering to serve especially incomprehensible. The article states that while in the Arlington National Cemetery, standing with John Kelly at the gravesite of Robert Kelly, John Kelly's son, Trump said, "I don't get it. What's in it for them?" Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin was able to confirm her source heard the president say about American veterans, "What's in it for them? They don't make any money." The source continued, "It was seen as a character flaw by the president. He could not understand why someone would die for their country. Not worth it." New York Times reporters Baker and Haberman had sources confirm Trump has expressed bewilderment that people choose military service over making money. Washington Post reporter Alex Horton confirmed through his source, a former senior administration official, that the president frequently made disparaging comments about veterans and soldiers missing in action, referring to them as losers. James Laporta of the Associated Press has confirmed the Atlantic article with his own source, a senior Defense Department official. Are these accusations credible? And the significance of using anonymous sources. In journalism, when an organization breaks a story, a standard practice is for other news organizations to check their own sources and confirm or refute the aspects of the story and the overall narrative. Journalists have been checking these, and while some aspects of the story have not been confirmed by every news organization, it is important to note that the overall narrative and general description of the events has been corroborated. The main arguments against the credibility has been the president and his subordinates are out in front denying these accusations, and anonymous sources are not to be trusted. Due to the high level of turnover, the officials that have been out in front denying the claims, with the exception of the president, were not in the room during the time of the accusations. What is left is Trump and his administration pointing to the use of anonymous sources as being inherently illegitimate. But let's remember Deep Throat was an unnamed source in the Watergate cover-up. This is not to say that anonymous sources are to be trusted blindly. Janet Cook famously made up an anonymous source for her story about a child heroin addict, which won her a Pulitzer Prize. The key for us, the public, being able to trust these unnamed sources is to have corroboration from other journalistic entities, especially with sources in the top federal government positions. Many of these journalists have their own informants that they trust, either in government or formally in government. When there is widespread corroboration of the facts and the overall narrative, it becomes much more credible. So why the hate on unnamed sources? For decades, Trump has used uncredible and probably fictitious unnamed sources to lie to the American public. In the 1990s, Trump would call anonymous tips about himself to the New York Post under the pseudonyms of John Barron and John Miller. On February 24, 2017, Trump railed against anonymous sources about an hour after his aides held an anonymous briefing with the press. Then there is the birther claim that still has no corroboration, where he claimed an extremely credible source told Trump that President Obama's birth certificate was fake. But Trump has a bit of a habit of making up sources to sound more credible.
Donald, just say do well in Iowa. I say I can't do that. I really want to win. A lot of people said he'll never run. Number one, he won't want to give up his lifestyle. They're right about that. A lot of people are saying, well, we've gone up a lot, but can you go up? We really have I think we have a long way to go. We've cut regulations. We've passed a tax bill. Okay, as I've heard a lot of people say, we're going to rip up the deal. It's very tough to do when you say rip up a deal, because I'm a deal person. A lot of these stupid people, they say, I'm a conservative, by the way, but they say, he is not a conservative. Do you remember Jeb Bush? He is not a conservative. Who cares? A lot of people say 800,000. Some people said yesterday, first time I heard 650, I also heard 3 million. But I built a great company, and people say that. Many people in Japan were really thrilled that I did. But a lot of people think that if you come and you're on the other side of the border, I'm not talking about Mexico, somebody on the other side of the border.
You deserve the Nobel Prize, do you think?
Everyone thinks so, but I would never say it.
When Trump was on the Today Show, trying to get people scared by thinking all Muslims could become terrorists, he said of Obama, there are a lot of people that think maybe he doesn't want to get it. A lot of people think maybe he doesn't want to know about it. In another instance, when a Trump supporter at a rally shouted that then President Obama was a Muslim and not even an American, Trump replied,
We have a problem in this country. It's called Muslims. We know our current president is one. Right. You know he's not even an American.
We need this
birth
question.
certificates, man. But anyway, we have training camps growing where they want to kill us. Mm-hmm. That's my question. When can we get rid of it?
We're going to be looking at a lot of different things. And, you know, a lot of people are saying that, and a lot of people are saying that bad things are happening out there. We're going to be looking at that and plenty of other things.
In the current era, Deep Throat might not be deemed credible, but multiple independently corroborated sources should be considered credible. And the bulk of the reporting in The Atlantic has been independently corroborated. Why do the sources stay anonymous? Since the end of Trump's impeachment trial in February of 2020, the Trump administration had made no secret of the fact that it is targeting what they consider disloyal members of the government.
That Trump allies are assembling lists of officials considered disloyal to the president, and they're finding pro-Trump replacements for them. Is there truth to that reporting, Hogan?
Well, the president's been pretty clear about the fact that he wants people in this administration who want to forward his agenda.
The fear is real that Trump will take action against career employees. While statutorily protected, career employees were not mentioned specifically. But the White House spokesperson Hogan Gidley spoke of people in the bowels of the federal government and the millions of people working for the federal government.
In the bowels of the federal government working against this president. I get brought quotes every day by journalists who say, we're going to write a story about this person saying the president's doing wrong here, or the president's not doing enough there. They're pushing their own selfish political agenda and not the agenda of the duly elected president. Every president, this one included, has the right to have people in positions that forward and execute his agenda.
So there's truth to the fact that there are lists being assembled. This report says that this has been going on since 2018. Plans to actively fire any of those people on the list, Hogan?
Well, again, it's not a secret that we want people in positions that work with this president, not against him. And too often we have people in this government. I mean, the federal government's massive with millions of people, and there are a lot of folks out there working against this president. If we find them, we'll take appropriate action.
The federal government only has about 4,000 positions that are appointed by the president. The rest are statutorily protected civil servants. And Gidley did mention that the oath that civil servants take is to the Constitution, not to any particular sitting president. The fear also exists for the president taking retribution against individuals. Even former individuals have to fear Trump dragging their names through the mud, especially if they're trying to maintain private sector employment, including blowback from Trump supporters who have in the recent past threatened the life and well-being of Dr. Anthony Fauci and his family, Michael Cohen, Trump's longtime lawyer, even against Republican delegates in 2016. And ABC News identified at least 54 criminal cases where Trump was invoked in direct connection with violent acts, threats of violence, or allegations of assault. If this is credible, is it important? Yes. It is an important story because this man, who evaded the Vietnam War and makes his persona around hugging the American flag, does not understand why people will fight and die for what it stands for. It is utter hypocrisy of the public image versus what he really believes that contributes to making him unfit for the presidency. He will claim to stand for the troops in public, but disparage those who died and were wounded in combat. He will push for military displays, but not appreciate the sacrifices of those who served. Trump's sole defense is denial. But since he has chosen to lie so obviously regarding McCain, his position is already one of lost credibility. So what does this all mean? It means the likelihood is high that Trump wanted wounded veterans kept out of the military parade. Trump did call McCain a loser. Trump did not want the flags lowered after McCain's death. Trump disparaged military servicemen and women. Trump does not understand military service and why people would serve their country if it is not going to make them money. The blatant display of contempt for the servicemen and women, while simultaneously giving enough lip service to expect their unwavering support, is quite simply un-American.